Welcome to Tourism Talk. I'm your host, Mary Hammond, Director of the Paducah Convention and Visitors Bureau. And my guest today is my old friend, Gerry Montgomery, former mayor of Paducah and founder of the Paducah Ambassadors. Welcome, Gerry.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yes, here we are in our red, the
That's
international
right.
color of hospitality, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Paducah Ambassadors. How can it be 20 years? You know, you have to sit there and count them down, and well, it's been an exciting 20 years.
It has, and it's been, I think, a good 20 years for tourism in our area. I remember back 20 years ago, we were nowhere where we are today.
No, but Paducah's always been an easy sell. People have always liked what we had, what we are. And, you know, sometimes I think even visitors had an appreciation that sometimes we didn't of our own community. And people have always come here.
That brings up something to me, because one reason we started the Ambassadors was we saw the need for our own citizens to appreciate our community. I remember back in '87 and '88, the downtown, everything had moved to the mall. And everybody was very much feeling, hey, we're never going to come back. It's never going to be like it was. And there was a real negative feeling in the community. So that need was there, and I saw that if we could train some people to what good things we had, that it would help to bring those attitudes and change those attitudes. And we also saw it in the quilt show that we needed it badly.
Well, let's set the stage a little bit. You've kind of started to do that. You know, Dolly McNutt was gone. I had joined Mimi. There were just the two of us at the Visitors Bureau, and we were really on the road selling. And it was pretty successful. You know, the steamboats were stopping regularly. We still had the motor coaches come in. We had good conventions, and they were going to the Market House Museum. They were going to the Yeiser Art Center, the Barclay Museum, to Whitehaven. I mean, we had good tourism going on, and their numbers were still growing. The Quilt Museum, the Quilt Show was in its second year when I started working. In fact, it was already filling Paducah's motels. We had already had the bed and breakfast program in place, putting people in private homes. The motor coaches were coming, and they were wanting city tours to see our community, to see how we lived here in Paducah, see our homes, and we couldn't do it, two people. You were already volunteering.
Yes, I started volunteering at the second quilt show in '86.
Before you were mayor? Before
I was mayor. I had been in the Leadership Paducah class that year, and two or three of us decided to volunteer and help.
That was the first class?
That was the second class.
Those were two very dynamic classes with a lot of vision.
Yes, and we had a great class, and we had even continued meeting and working on projects as to how we could help Paducah. And one of them was to help the downtown and tourism. But I noticed as we worked in that '87 quilt show that we had to have some ambassadors, some volunteers that were trained. I mean, you know, you can't just take somebody and just put them in that position real quickly. So they needed to have some training, and they would make a big difference. I even noticed that the volunteers from Leadership Paducah, we needed more training before we did what we did. And
we've always had lots of unofficial ambassadors, but there was that real need to hone our skills, to really be able to answer our questions, have the same answers, all of us be answering the same, to be united in how we represented Paducah. And then here's your idea to start an ambassador. Now, first though, you ran for mayor.
Yes, I was running for mayor in '87, yes.
And still, as you, this Mary's recollection here, a lot of the people who were active in our community, active in the campaign, workers, too good to let them go along after the election, put those folks back to work. And they came to City Hall and volunteered, beginning the ambassador program. Yes.
Charles Sissel was really very, very instrumental. In order to start a volunteer program, and we didn't have any money, and felt like it was important that we not take money from anybody at the beginning. We wanted to make it completely volunteer, and Charlie was really the one who gave of his time and his energy and his ability, because he knew a lot about the history of the community. He loved the community and had taught school and was a very good leader. And he, along with others, joined together and helped us to mold the beginning and the training program for the ambassadors. We also used the West Kentucky Technical School. Yes. They used their skills in hospitality and in customer service skills that they used in our training, and all of it together. It was a combined effort, mm-hmm. but I think it has worked out extremely well.
My mind's just alive with ideas. I mean, I remember being with Beverly McKinley teaching classes. Right. She was teaching classes and learning, everybody learning about the community. About the time you think you know a lot about Paducah, be in a situation where you're really around a lot of visitors, you decide that, you know, you're really not quite as informed as you thought you were.
Right.
But Beverly was excellent in mm-hmm. helping with the hospitality training, and that is deeper than even just your history, but still your people skills.
That's right.
And helping us to communicate with people mm-hmm. and giving directions.
Yeah.
Just some things that we may have learned along the way, but sometimes we forget.
That's right. You know, this is a book that we put together of the information that we needed, and mine's old. It's not the most current, but it's still very much the type of things that we do. And that is like learning the kind of answers to questions that people ask. If you're downtown, where is the best place and closest place to find medicine? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all kinds of questions that people ask when they come off the boat or mm-hmm. when they're there at a convention. And so we had a list of all of those questions that we studied and we made sure that we knew.
We still update that before Quilt Show.
Every year it's updated. Yes. And it's very important that mm-hmm. they have to go back and relearn to make sure that they know the best answer for those questions.
It may not be, say, your dentist, but the dentist that is open at that particular time that's easy to get to. Mm-hmm. You know, it may, you know, it's everything from what is that flowering bush out front, you know, mm-hmm. or that I right. saw coming in on the interstate, or where are those trains going, or what kind of fish are in your river? What river is that?
Right.
You know, and we've
yes.
heard all kinds of answers
yep.
to that when we've
right.
been down on the riverfront. No, that is not.
Yeah, we have a page just on rivers: the Ohio, the Tennessee, the Cumberland, and the Mississippi.
It is not the Kentucky River.
That's right.
We've heard all kinds of answers. Yes. Well, it's. I was thinking back and looking at some of the photos of the early activities as we were learning and growing. Mm-hmm. And maybe we should watch this little video just to kind of get an idea.
That's great.
Kind of set the stage here and
mm-hmm.
look, I remember, gosh, all the way back to Wallace Wilkinson coming in.
Yes, he came in and he loved the ambassadors and came often. And brought money.
Yeah, we like that. But the ambassadors have always literally rolled out the red carpet.
That's right, we have.
Oh, there's Charlie.
There's Charlie, and he was a valuable asset. Martha has since been one of our presidents.
So this is kind of a run-through of the presidents here at the beginning.
Yeah. James Scott was one of our presidents.
Scotty.
And Hank Batts, he's been with us since the very beginning, and Hank is outvaluable. This is our present president, which is Randall Dawson.
There we go.
There we were waiting for Wilkinson one time, and this is at one of the unveilings mm-hmm. of the murals. This is the mural that was given by Jim Grisham of the ambassadors. This is, I think, at City Hall. I'm not sure who we were greeting. It looks like it was Senator Ford.
Yes, most definitely. Gosh, old friends that are no longer
this
with us.
This is when Benson, Senator Benson came in, and this is Crit Llewellyn. She was head of tourism at the time.
Yes.
And there's Governor Wilkinson.
Ruth Walsh. This is at the Quilt Show.
Yes.
Answering questions, all the visitors. The city tours, they're always popular.
That's one of the city tours.
Oh, here we go.
This is a training session before a quilt show. And there's Martha. She was working in the gold button Main
Street, right.
And there's another information booth.
Oh, city tours.
This is city tour.
Look at all those smiley faces.
This is some working in the EMT station there. This is the opening of the Quilt Museum.
More training sessions. Charlie. Package information. Boy, the quilters love to check their packets.
Package information. The package check has been a very good way to raise a little bit of money. This is when Willard Scott was in Paducah for the quilt show. We had a great time. He is a wonderful man, easy to talk to.
Got the Paducah song going in the background there. I need to rent that movie again. The gang's all here just to watch it and listen to Carmen Miranda sing the song.
Now this is the Paducah song, we call it.
The Paducah song.
Trolley. That's Marilyn. She staffed our office for a long time.
I see Rose's smiling face back there. That's City Hall.
That's a City Hall function.
Oh, barbecue on the river. Look at, they can't miss the tablecloth.
In the early years, the ambassadors did the information booth and everything. This is at Whitehaven, I believe.
I think it's their Christmas.
And this is the Lewis and Clark exhibit that came, which we staffed.
Delphine, looks like a captain from one of the boats. Oh, this looks over at the Expo Center.
This is when we did the garden over there, yes.
Ambassador Garden. LST.
The LST, when it came to Paducah, and they worked on it.
Maiden Alley.
Maiden Alley opening, I believe.
Hard hats. Wonder what we were looking at there.
I'm not sure.
Redcoats and riverboats.
That's one of our annual dinners.
I know your wardrobe is as full as mine with red jackets.
I have red jackets.
When we see
red shirts.
When we see each other in different colors, it's like, what's different? Well, we don't have red on. That was always fun to wave goodbye to the steamboats.
Yes. With the red bandanas.
Red bandanas, yes. All of our friends, the captains and the crews on the boats. Charles Myrick. One of the fun stories recently, Fowler Black got on a tour bus to give them a tour, and the group had been here before, so they greeted him by singing the Paducah song.
Oh, that was good.
They were very proud that they knew the words.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So here we are, preparing for spring. Once again, we'll do with the quilt show, and there's so many duties, from being outside, helping people find their way, to the shuttle buses, the information, the package check, the gold button booth, the EMTs. I mean, much more than you could ever imagine. But that's not it. There's much more, many more duties and activities, from volunteering at the Quilt Museum to being some of the other attractions, from greeting at City Hall when we have special guests.
Oh, over the years there's been many, many different things. One thing that I remember that I enjoyed very much was the VIP program we had.
Yes.
Visitor in Paducah, and the city was a sponsor with the tourism and the ambassadors, and we went to it every month. We chose a time and a hotel in which we went to, and we gave them the VIP pins and
surprise somebody.
Surprise somebody to have a free night in that hotel.
In fact, Channel 2 was usually there.
Yeah, Channel 2 was almost always there, and it
filming.
Was a really an exciting time. And the whole idea came really from one of our ambassadors, Bob Leeper. He wanted to have a way that we could identify visitors in Paducah so that we could be extra special nice to them. And so he wanted them all to have a VIP
Visitor
pin.
in Paducah.
Visitor in Paducah. And so it was the shape of Kentucky, and it came out of Paducah with a VIP. And they were just little plastic pins. And that went on for several years. But that's one of those things I wish we could regenerate again.
I remember going with Delphine to call on businesses to gain support for the program, and there were so many supporters and people who offered specials to the visitors that had the VIP pin on their lapel, and it was very successful.
Yes,
and,
it was.
And we used it as a marketing tool as well. Say, greeting someone at a hotel with a gift basket, Channel 2, all the ambassadors would be there, and they would be totally surprised. They got their room free. They would have a dinner. We'd take their picture and send it to their hometown newspaper. It was always fun. Got a little bit of publicity over it.
It was indeed. And I remember one lady I will not forget, bless her heart. She was from Southern Illinois, well, actually Central Illinois. And she was chosen one night, and when she came up, she had a looked like man in the front seat with her, but it wasn't. It was a blown-up man because her husband had died, and she was on her way back from Florida by herself and didn't want anybody to know she was by herself.
well, he didn't check into the room. He stayed in the car.
No,
all
he
night.
stayed in the car.
He stayed in the
but
car.
she was a delightful lady, and we enjoyed her very much. And I think Barron took her to dinner that night.
Well, Barron White
was a great ambassador.
Great ambassador of Paducah to the very end, and his legacy carries on with his books.
That's
and
correct.
The stories of Paducah.
Yeah. And I would think it's important that we realize Charlie and Marilyn and some of the older ambassadors really did hold it together for several years, and he gave an enormous amount of time. In fact, the ambassadors today are giving about 5,000 hours a year.
It's a lot of volunteer time.
A lot of volunteer time. And we realized as Charlie was aging and as some of the older ones were aging that we needed to find a way for the organization to be constructed in such a way that there would be longevity. So that is the time that we organized as an incorporated group. And now it is the Paducah Ambassadors Incorporated. And we have a board that is the governing board for the ambassadors. And since that time, we have had presidents. Up until that time, we were all just ambassadors. Right. And they now have an annual dinner, which is necessary for an annual meeting. And they have the board, and we have officers. We have a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer that actually are in charge with a board of about 12 people.
Can you tell us who those officers are off the top of your head?
I think I can.
Good.
I'm not absolutely sure who the vice president is right now, but the president is Randall Dawson. And I'm not absolutely sure who the vice president is. I know that Sue Thorpe is the secretary, and Paul Sissel is the treasurer. And we're thinking about trying to change it to a president-elect position so that there will be that year in training before you take the office of president.
Well, change means growth, and that's a good thing.
Right. So, and we have grown. I mean, we have a lot of ambassadors today.
The Convention and Visitors Bureau, we work hand in hand together, although the ambassadors have their own office, and a lot of people say, well, I thought they were part. Well, we're sister organizations. We work hand in hand. We hold hands together.
That's right.
But the ambassadors are incorporated. But we do work together as far as the Convention and Visitors Bureau does sponsor the quilt show orientation class, the annual Christmas gathering, and we just communicate almost weekly with ambassadors, with activities that are going on. Right now it happens to be the school tours, and we're trying to work out how are we going to deal with the number of school tours that are calling, because it's really not, we really can't handle them in tourism, but we know how important it is for the school children to enjoy our community and to learn.
They need to know also the history, and they need to appreciate the things that we have in our community, because we do have a lot. And so it is very important, and like you say, it's not really tourism's job, so it is a job that tourism trained people like the ambassadors can do.
And if we have helped in the past in doing that, but sometimes it just becomes a point with our community and the growth and where we are. We just can't do it.
Yeah.
But that's anyway, not to dwell on that.
Yes,
but that's just one of, it is always growth and change, and and there are obstacles. I mean, this right now, we have lots of steamboat stops. We're getting a lot of Sunday stops. Sunday stops are not the easiest thing for us. I mean, we go to church, and it's difficult now. The boat loves to stop here because there are so many churches, and the people who want to get off, would like to get off of the boat and walk up the street to go to service. There you go. It's very, very easy. But you know that you're trying to get ambassadors to work on Sundays, trying to get people to be open. Luckily, we have so many ambassadors. I'm trying to think. I think at Christmas time we had about 100 people at our Christmas party.
I think actually we have on the list over about almost 150.
That's great.
But in addition to that, there are some inactive ones still there. But I think it's important. They do not demand that anybody serve on Sunday.
Yes.
And I think it's important. It is a volunteer organization, and it's important that people have the right to say, I can't come that time.
And we totally respect that.
And that we have to respect. But many people are willing to maybe go to church early or go to church later and be willing to come down in order to help the visitors that day.
Do you remember that when the boats came on Christmas Eve for a while, and they even came on Christmas Day, and we were like, oh no, who in the world will come downtown? And we found that there are a lot of people that don't have family. And they came down, and we took the buses, took them around to the church services that night for the late services. And at the office, it was really a festive atmosphere of people who had nowhere else to go. And we enjoyed one another.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
It is
and
a big family.
I think it's an important point to make about the ambassadors is that each one of us buy our own coat. We buy our own name tag, which I have in my pocket. We buy our own shirts, and the organization doesn't go out and ask for money very often at all, because of the fact that everybody does pay for their own things. And the training is something, the city does provide us an office, and that is a valuable thing that they do for us. Also, they help cover us on insurance liability, which is another important point. And so they do help us in that way. And many of our ambassadors are from the city. Some are from our county, because we do things with the city and county. And many of them even come from adjoining counties. But most of them are from Paducah McCracken County.
I love the stories of an ambassador being overseas, and they run into someone that knows of the ambassador program or remembers them, or stayed in someone's home during the quilt show. The stories are just phenomenal that come from around the word.
One of my favorites is there were several ladies from Paducah, and I think they were with Mrs. Toy. And they were in Harrods in London, and they were trying to buy something and communicate, and a lady that was standing close heard her say she was from Paducah, Kentucky. And so she turned around, and when they finished their transaction, she said, I am from London, and I was in Paducah. Do you know any ambassadors? And two of them were ambassadors. And they said, well, we're ambassadors. And so she said, well, I'm going to take the day off and show you London like you showed me Paducah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that was, those kind of things you don't forget. But it is true, because people come to our city. You know better than I do how many people come from all over the world. I've just been in your office a few times whenever somebody came in from Belgium and came in from
you'd be surprised, France. It's
all
amazing,
over.
Well, you never can tell.
And for our quilt show, they're always here. About 2 years ago, we made very good friends with a couple from England that were here for the quilt show. And they had come in early and didn't know where to go exactly. We came out of the museum from a preview time that we had there. And we became very good friends. We email back and forth.
Are they coming this year?
No, they're not.
But it's early still.
Yeah, that's right. Not this year.
Well, as we kind of pull together our time here, Gerry, if someone who's watching this is interested in being an ambassador, they really need to talk to someone who is an ambassador. and they need to really have a kind of a recommendation.
Yes.
From someone who
the
currently
protocol is that they have 2 recommendations from ambassadors, and that they are usually come before now a small committee of probably 2 or 3 people that interview them to see if they feel like that they have the ability to be able to do the things that we have to do, and to tell them what all it entails, so that they might understand better what time is required, what amount of study and that sort of thing is required. And then after that, they recommend them to the board.
If you're
then
watching,
they go through the training class.
And go through the training, and we continue every year to do updates on that training. I know that you're watching this. You've got our website, Paducah Convention and Visitors Bureau, bookmarked on your computer, or if you need to give us a call, you can easily remember 1-800-PADUCAH. We'll connect you with the Paducah Ambassadors, or if you see a red coat on the riverfront, get to know them. Put out your hand, just like they do. Get to know them. The ranks of the ambassadors are always growing, always learning, and always looking for new ambassadors.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Jerry, thanks for coming and talking with us here as we start the 20th anniversary. I know we plan to meet again, to have a couple more of the ambassadors to join us and talk about some of the current activities that are happening, how we're celebrating this 20th anniversary, and where we're headed in the future.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I'll see you on the riverfront, probably waving our bandanas as the riverboats pull up, or working the information booth at the quilt show. Who knows where we'll find those red coats.
Well, they'll be all around.
They'll be all over.
Particularly this spring.
That's right. We hope that we'll see you on the riverfront, and even if you're not an ambassador, wear that red, that international color of hospitality, and put out your hand and welcome people to Paducah.
But if you have red on, you better have some answers, because
they expect them. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So stay tuned to Tourism Talk so you'll have the answers in the future. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.